Well, good morning, everyone. I've been finishing up putting these nuke boxes together that my cousin and I cut out back on the 18th. And I've got 8 of them that I've put together. Adam had 20 of them that he put together. But this video is how we cut up the plywood to make the parts for these boxes. If you're looking for a cheap and easy way to make nuke boxes, this is one of them. You can get 4 nuke boxes out of one 4x8 sheet of plywood and have material left over. So I hope you enjoy the video of us cutting up the sheets of plywood to make the parts for these nuke boxes. And this is the first of a 2-part series. The second is how I assembled the nuke boxes. So if you like this video, I hope you'll give it a thumbs up, and until we see you out the bee yard, happy beekeeping, and thanks for watching. Here are 2 screenshots of the plans that we used to make these nukes boxes up. This is just a shot of what the box will look like after it's finished. And as you see here, this is a cut list and a diagram of how to cut up your sheet of plywood to get the most out of the sheet of plywood to make the parts that you need for this project. Here we're cutting up a sheet of plywood to break it down so we can further cut up the parts that we need for the nuke boxes. As you can see, we're using a homemade saw guide for the circular saw to cut it. We measure each cut, and then we place the saw and guide in place, and then Adam runs the saw across. We started out by just marking the sheet of plywood with the measurement, and he freehand cutting the curve, and it was taking too long. We have 28 hives to cut out. That's 7 sheets of plywood to cut up, so this really sped up the process. Here's another screenshot of the cut sheet for the plywood. As you can see, we started out with making the sides, which is part A, and there's 2 rows of that. Then we cut the tops, which is part B, and the bottoms, which is part C, and then the last piece is just a leftover cutoff that we use to make the backs and stuff at a later point. But this is the easiest way for us to do that. We could set up a table saw or to possibly do this, but having to change the lengths of the cuts for each of those would take more time. So we chose to do it this way. It was much more efficient and easy to break down the sheets of plywood. We did this for all 7 sheets of plywood. It took us a little time, but it was pretty fast. The next step is going to be breaking the parts down from these pieces that we've made to make each individual part that we need. As you can see here, we're marking each piece as we take it off, so we know what piece it's supposed to be, what parts are going to come out of that piece, and we're stacking it into separate stacks, so when it comes time to further break it down, it'll be easier to do, because we'll set up the next rip for it, and we'll break it down, all of the same pieces, into the particular parts that for the hives. And this is the final sheet of plywood we're breaking down, so Coming next is the next step in the process. Now for the next step in the process, we're going to use the table saw to cut each of those strips of plywood down into their final widths for those particular pieces. We found this would be the fastest way to make multiple cuts. For the sides, which we're working on right here, there were 14 sheets that we had to break down, and each sheet had 4 pieces in it, plus a offcut that we used later on. So this does speed up the process. You don't have to have a table saw or anything like that to make these. If you're making a lot of them, it sure does help with the speed up the process. And so now we're resetting the saw here for the next set of parts that are coming out. I'm not sure, I can't remember for sure which part that was, but and again you see us reset the saw and go to the next part. So as I said, this does speed up the process when you have repetitive cuts to make. Another reason we chose to use the table saw here is because the parts are too wide for using the miter saw, which was going to be in the next step. And here's the next step where we're cutting some more pieces. These are the fronts and the backs. They're narrow enough that the miter saw will cut clear across, and we're able to cut them pretty fast. As you can see to the right of the picture in the right hand corner, there's a stop block that Adam is putting the piece of wood against, and he gets the same measurement every time. Now there is a little bit of a challenge. You have to make sure, as you see, he was cleaning the sawdust out of there, and at one point the stop block does move on us, and we had to go back and recut several of the pieces and to make them the correct width, which isn't a problem, but it just took a little bit more time. And this is where Adam realized that it wasn't cutting the same size. He's adjusting the stop block back and to the right dimension, and then we go through the stack here where we and try to find the ones that we miscut, and we find them all. It was just a matter of checking them against the one with the correct size. So, and then he goes back through and we recut the ones that we've miscut and make them the correct dimensions. Here I'm handing him the ones that are too wide, so he's checking the measurement, make sure we got it correct yet. And we decide to make sure we get them all the right width. I don't get video of us cutting up the smaller pieces, the cleats for the lids and the cleats for the ends of the boxes to make the frame rest, but these are the pieces, the big pieces that we use to make up the box itself and the lid. The top, the bottom, the two sides, front, back. So you kind of get an idea of the process that it takes to cut these pieces out. I hope this video helps you. I'm going to leave a link to the PDF for the plans of these nuke boxes in the description below. To be out the bee yard. Happy beekeeping, and thanks for watching.